Pep Talk UK. It's time!
Everyone talk good game, but it don't really faze me. The man that ain't mad like Max, the boy that not murky like Ace B. And them guy walk the slide on the back, balling like a baby.
Oi, oi. Welcome to the Pep Talk UK Sports Podcast, the podcast that talks the major boxing and football news from around the globe. Real points of view from a real panel. Hashtag Real Talk on Pep Talk. Please subscribe to Pep Talk UK on iTunes and YouTube. Don't forget to like, share and comment. I'm back from GH Ghana, ready to do this for my squad. Right, I'm your host Frankie B, and I'm joined by a sick panel. Firstly, I'd like to welcome from the capital city of France, Paris, Pascal. How are ya?
Bonsoir Frankie B, bonsoir mes amis. How are you?
Mate, I am super tanned. I'm back fresh as a daisy from Ghana. Food,
wow.
Afro beats, jollof, fufu, lit situations, my friend. I'm back.
Super. Next time, Frankie B, you've got to bring me with you because I heard some very good stories about the Ghanaian hospitality, you know.
Mate, the hospitality was food and drink for me, mate. I'll tell you that.
Sure, I'm sure it was good. I'm very sure. But, throughout the course of the show, I'm very much, waiting to hear about the fights, and your friends, your new friends you've made in Ghana. So I'm looking forward to tonight's show.
Yes, Mr. Micah, Richard Commey, Mickey Moo, Lokko. Lit situations, my friend. Now, Pascal, before we move on, you want to shout your social media?
Oui, bien sûr. My social media, ladies and gentlemen, is very simple. It's Pascal _de Sade, like the Marquis de Sade. It's Pascal _de Sade at Twitter and Instagram. Please follow me.
Nice. Now I'd like to introduce another member of the team rolling with us, Miss Money Penny Cece. How you doing?
How you doing, Frankie?
I'm well. How things? What's going on?
Well, I'm on a come down from a few very big blockbuster boxing events, as you can imagine.
Mm-hmm. The hay Bellew was kind of hectic out there.
Absolutely. My God, I'm only starting to recover with my voice.
Do you think it lived up to the hype? Or
worth every penny? No, definitely not a disappointment. Definitely not.
So Cece, we're going to keep it moving. Do you want to shout out your social media?
Yeah, but if you really want to see what I look like, you can find me on Instagram, CEMO_CC. And if you kind of want to delve into me a little bit more and see what I have to talk about, you can find me on Twitter at CEMOCI. Come and join the conversation.
Yeah, wicked. That sounds nice. Finally, I'd like to welcome a Pep Talk sponsored athlete, Linus Yedofia.
How's it going, Frankie B? Thank you for having me on yet again.
Yeah. Are you all ready for Saturday?
Oh man, I'm itching to go. I just want to get in there and punch someone in the head.
Hit and not be hit.
Yeah, that's all that matters. Hit and not be hit. How are you doing? I'm
all good. I'm looking forward to your fight. As you know, the Pep Talk boys is going to be in full force. Do you want to tell the listeners a bit about your fight at York Hall?
Funny enough, I got a call this morning from my coach and manager saying that my opponent has switched yet again.
What?
So, this is 4 fights now, and I haven't fought the original opponent I was meant to fight. But, no biggie, no big thing, as a friend of mine would say.
Still going to be light work, though.
Yeah, still going to be good work. Just got to get it done, and we just got to get to it, really. But yeah, ready to go. I just want to, I just want to get going. I just want to, I just want to get going, really. All the hard work's really done now. I'm on a warm down now, and then, you know, I just want to get going. I'm just so, you know, what I mean, all the hard work's done. Most of the tickets are done. Just doing the last few bits of running around now, but you know, I'm ready to go. Really, I just want to fight. I can't really wait. I just really want to fight now.
So how can people pick up tickets?
They can pick up tickets through. They can contact me through my social medias. You know, Facebook, Lioness Commey Udofia, Instagram, Boxer Lioness Udofia, and Twitter, Lioness_Boxer. Or, you know, they can order tickets on my website, lionessudofia.com, and, you know, on there you can find out more about me, about my sponsors, and various other information about me, really.
So you want to just let us know your social media platforms again?
Yeah, that's Instagram, Lioness Udofia. Instagram, Boxer Lioness Udofia. Facebook, Lioness Commey Udofia. And Twitter, Lioness_Boxer.
Wicked. Ladies and gents, attention please for the fight fans locked in. Attention please for the football fans locked in. Now it's time for some real talk on Pep Talk. Let's go! Yes, sir. So we're going to start with the boxing. We had a Norwegian special last week, so we couldn't touch on the Hay and Bellew fight. But it's only right that we have our say. Now, Pascal, I know you was there, mate. There, mate.
Frankie, oui.
How was the fight in general? Did Bellew dominate, or was Hay's Achilles injury the turning point?
Frankie, you know, I don't know where to begin. You know, I think you cast me back to the night of the evening, and, you know, the fight, it was a fantastic fight. It was superb for various reasons. The first reason is I got to meet CC for the very first time.
Hey!
It was love at first sight. I know, I was very pleased, very pleased to hang out with CC. You know, she bought me chips and a very big bear, and that's certainly the way to my heart. So thank you, CC.
Oh, my pleasure.
And secondly, I mean, the fight itself, you know, Frankie, was unbelievable. I did not expect the result to be the way it ended, you know. For a very long time, you know, Frankie, I said that David Hay would be winning the fight in 4 rounds. But Monsieur Tony Bellew showed the determination, the grit of a Scouser, and I was very surprised because he took the best punches from David Hay, and he was also able to respond, and, you know, he was resilient. And I think that even without the up until the injury, you know, David Hay was up in rounds, but it was still very close because it was a bit of a scrappy fight. You know, Mr. Tony Bellew turned it into a dogfight, you know, and he took David Hay to the trenches, and a pretty boy like David Hay didn't really like that. You know, he took him to the late rounds, but that was a very good strategy. You know, I mean, David Caldwell did very well, very well. This was very much a game plan that was very well executed, and I was very happy for Tony Bellew. I must say that my money was on David Hay. You know, I put a wager on him. I won't say how much, but you know, I was a
few euros.
A few euros, of course, yes, and. But look, I'm very pleased for the outcome because Tony Bellew is a very nice gentleman. He's a very good sports person. He's very good for the sport of boxing because he's got that bravado, you know, that braggadocious attitude, and I find him very entertaining in the press conference. But as a fighter, I think he is very much overachieved, and he continues to defy expectations, you know. So big credit to Tony Bellew. I'm afraid that David Hay, perhaps this may well be the end of the road for him. You know, at 36, having the kind of injuries that he's been suffering, and, you know, the fact that he's been out of the ring for quite a long time with a credible opponent. Some argue that Tony Bellew may not be as credible, but if you remember, Frankie, Tony Bellew has been made more active in the ring than David Hay. You know, and, you know, sometimes if you have that you know, that familiarity of fighting at the highest level every single time, that gives you a bit of a competitive edge. You know, Linus will tell us that later, but I think that Tony Bellew certainly has made himself a very interesting commodity in the heavyweight division, and we expect Tony Bellew to certainly receive quite a few £1 million checks in the near future.
But to be honest, Pascal, to go out with 4 million for David Hay is not a bad way to end your career, mate.
So certainly not, no, certainly not. But you know, he's got 99 problems, including a women's, and I think that David Hay needs to fight again because you know he's recently divorced his wife, and you know there's a lot of money when you separate from a long-term partner. So I think that the alimony payments, I'm not sure what they're like in England, but they could potentially be very high. So I expect David Hay to come back again. You know, if you want my honest opinion, I think David Hay will be fighting maybe another couple of times, you know, before he retires.
Okay, well, Moneypenny CC, you were also there. Do you think David Hay underestimated Tony Bellew?
I think he did. In which case, I mean, he tried to really draw him out with a couple of jabs. He was fighting he was fighting definitely very much so on the defence, and I think he massively underestimated what Tony Bellew was going to come out with. Listen, at the end of the day, this was a real heavyweight blockbuster event. I mean, can you call it heavyweight considering that Bellew's fought at heavyweight for the first time? But hey, I have to say, it was really uncomfortable to see him rolling around like that.
Yeah.
He injured his foot, and he still stood with his fists up in the air and his eye on the opponent. You know, I have to say, respect to both fighters.
Respect on his name.
I don't want to see I feel there's more to come from David Hay, and actually before the fight Hay did say he will turn his head to Hollywood, but not just yet. He still feels he's got another couple of fights under his belt. But now with this loss, is he thinking differently? Is he thinking strategically? I don't think it's a way for him to go out. This is not the end of Hay. And let's see how his rehab process goes, and I'd like to see him make a comeback. You know, and now we hear that Bellew's undergoing surgery on his hand, so he's going to be out for another 5 months. I'm interested to see what his next game plan's going to be. But I mean, like I said, when you look at historic accomplishments, David Hay really should have been the winner of the fight, and maybe it was the fact that he underestimated the capabilities. I think it was the fact that Bellew had spirit. He had, just unbelievable. But you know, Hay is a tenacious character, and he went on and on and on, and Bellew didn't really look like he was losing. The whole time I felt Hay was the one that looked like the weaker fighter. And this is the outcome.
Yeah, it certainly seems like injuries might have taken their toll in David Hay's career. I thought he looked pretty good up until the injury, I must say. And I think the fact that Bellew took him to the later rounds became a major advantage for Bellew overall. Now, Linus.
Hello.
Some people are saying that Bellew beat an injured fighter. Is that a very unfair comment?
It's very unfair, and it's quite disrespectful, to be honest, because the same people saying he beat an injured fighter are the people that would call in sick for a sore finger. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, but it's unfair. It's not fair. Do you know what I mean? It's taken so much away from Bellew. Do you know what I mean? The guy's just got a world championship that on paper he wasn't meant to win. He just, do you know what I mean? He's come back from. Personally, I think he was on his way out. I thought, who the hell is Bellew kind of thing, and then he, you know what I mean? He went and won that world title. You know what I mean? I always knew I know who he is, but I mean, he went and won that world title against McGregor, which realistically on paper he wasn't meant to win. And things like that, and just, you know, he's done incredible things in the last 12 months. You know what I mean? And for people to say, you know what I mean, he's beat an injured fighter, okay, fair enough, but at the same time, remember, I'm saying this as a massive he's probably a massive David Hay fan. David Hay is easily my favourite British heavyweight. Easily.
He's got skills.
And saying this, you know, we have to remember Tony Bellew broke his hand as well in the fight. So if we're going to talk about injuries and everything, we have to, you know what I mean, let's just give both the men credit for putting up an absolute box office worthy performance. You know what I mean? That was a really good fight. You know, I personally think, I do actually think if the injury didn't come about, I think Hay would have caught up with him, no matter what Bellew was doing anyway. I think, you know what I mean? I think Hay was winning that fight up until then.
Yeah.
But I think Hay would have started getting his timing right, started settling down a little bit more, and Bellew would have started slowing down to the pressure, and it just would have been that time. And Hay would have stopped him later, I think, anyway. But, you know what I mean? Like, I won't say, oh, yeah, hey, Bellew beat an injured fighter. Do you know what I mean? You can't say that. You can't, you know what I mean? That's not fair. It's not fair at all. You can't. That's taking so much away from Bellew's performance. I think Bellew did very well. He did what he had to do. Well, you telling me, so these people are telling me that you're there, there's how much money at stake, There's your record at stake. You know what I mean? Reputation, all the talk that's happened. Okay, he hurt himself. You what? You're gonna step back and you're gonna just step back and let it. Oh yeah, I don't want to hit him. I don't want to hurt him. He's hurt his leg. Do you know what I mean? Come on, it's a fight. This is what we do. You know what I mean? This is what happens. You know what I mean? I can't tell you the amount of times that I've gone into a fight, popped my elbow out or dislocated my shoulder or something, and the guy's trying to kill me. Do you know what I mean? And I do the same thing with someone else. I'm sorry, it's a fight game, man. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. You know what I mean? It's what you're meant to do. You're meant to go and kill. So, what do you want me to do?
But Linus, up until that point of the injury, do you think David Haye was winning on the scorecards?
Yes.
In your opinion?
Yes,
That's what I thought.
I think he was winning. The rounds were close, but not close enough to say, I could have given that one to Bellew. It was pretty clear that Bellew came out, very smart, and, not wanting to engage really. He only wanted a fire just after David Haye. He didn't want to fire when he was firing. He didn't want to fire first. And, it was it was a very smart game plan. It was a very good game plan as well. But realistically, I saw David Haye winning that fight up until the injury. That's just personally what I think.
I agree with you.
I think there might be a rematch, so let's all campaign for a rematch.
Yeah, it'll be a good fight, but at the same time, with that with the severity of his injury, I don't think they'll ever get a rematch, and I don't think David Haye will fight in the calendar 2017.
And Achilles is almost up to a year, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he'll fight in this year. I don't think he'll fight this year. Which is, it's not like he's a 25-year-old man, you know what I mean? But I think, but you say that, but he looked great in the fight, if I'm honest with you. He looked great. And it's just, it was heartbreaking seeing him just, because as soon as that, I can't remember what round it was, it might have been 4th or 5th. But as soon as the round was over and he was just stumbling back, and I thought, well, we're saying it right. I know he ain't tired. Just, you know what I mean?
Do you remember there was a point between one of the rounds when David Haye was walking back to his corner and he was gassed out? Do you remember that part?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that round, but it just didn't look right. It just didn't, you know what I mean? It just didn't look right. It didn't look right. It's just like, I thought, I don't know, man. I know he ain't tired. He hasn't done too much in that round.
Yeah. But when you're carrying a lot of muscle like that, it obviously, it uses up a lot of energy. And, like we were saying before, he hasn't boxed, at a high level for a while.
Yeah, so. Which is again, fair play to him for jumping back into this. Do you know what I mean? Again, at the end of the day, David Haye proved something massive that night. He's not a diva, he's a fighter. He will grit it out. Do you know what I mean? Like, he will grit it out. And that's one thing, I respect him anyway, but, he's opened up eyes to so many people, do you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's all, but you get guys like, David Haye, he's not a quitter. He isn't a quitter. I like to think that, if I got in the same situation, I would have, my corner have to pull me out. I would never quit. You know what I mean? My corner would have to pull me absolutely out of the fight, I wouldn't quit. But, he really showed something that night. He's gained, I say, even though he took a loss, I reckon he's gained a lot of support from the British public, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, can I just say, I think he showed phenomenal sportsmanship in the way that we've never seen Haye behave before, the way that he touched gloves at the end, the way that he picked him up and he pointed to the crowd and pointed at Bellew and said, this guy is an amazing fighter, respect to him. I don't think I've ever seen Haye in the history of boxing give any other boxer the amount of respect he did that night following the loss.
Well, you know what, Cece? I'm always a bit suspicious of that when that happens, because in the back of my head I'm thinking, has this all been kind of put together beforehand? This big grudge match.
But you can't just say, David Haye. I give Tony Bellew a lot of, he showed me a lot of class. I've never really liked Bellew, but I have to give him respect because he showed a lot of class as well. Instead of jumping around celebrating like the little Cordell did and did, you know what I mean? He was just like, look, the guy's clearly hurt, man. You know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? He showed a lot of him in heart, man. I really respect that about Tony Bellew. You know what I mean? That's given me a new. You know what I mean? Both men showed something to really respect in that fight, and that's good. That's the kind of thing boxing and the British public needs. You know what I mean? But at the same time, one thing I learnt about the British public in people in general, not just the British public, but people in general, no matter what you do, people are always going to have something to say. So. Yeah. You know what I mean? I just respect both men for doing what they did. They actually, you know what I mean, talked of a good fight and had a good fight. You know what I mean? It's rare to see that. It's very rare.
But we move forward, and this weekend is a big fight, and that is Triple G, Gennady Golovkin versus Daniel Jacobs at Madison Square Garden. Pascal,
Oui,
it's
monsieur.
in New York.
Of course.
Now, a lot of people are saying this is Triple G's first real test. Is that something that you agree with? Can Daniel Jacobs pull up an upset?
Well, certainly what we can certainly deduce from the last fight against Kelbrook is that, Triple G is facing a legitimate champion at the weight division. Daniel Jacobs also, he's a man of surprises. He stopped Peter Quillin, who was once undefeated. So therefore, we can expect Jacobs to put on a good performance. He's a good athletic athlete. Good record, world champion also. And
he's a regular champion.
He's a regular champion, but very much so. To achieve that level of accolade is still very much, something to applaud. It's certainly a very difficult sport to achieve any form of recognition. So I think that Triple G will be very good to see how Triple G fares up against an athlete and a boxer and a puncher, somebody that can fight back, at the weight division. and we've been waiting for a very long time for Triple G to be tested, and up until now, it's either Triple G is too good for his own good, or Triple G has not fought someone yet that can trouble him, and I'm looking forward to this fight. Certainly after our good friend Linus fights, on Saturday, I'll be heading back to my apartment, to my hotel, to watch the fight early morning before heading back to Paris, because it's a fight I'm looking forward to, because we've seen some very good upsets over the last couple of weeks. We talked about the upset against XAVIER and Tony Bellew, but also let's touch upon the Keith Thurman fight at Garcia.
Yes.
I had Garcia to win. Thurman
I called
won.
it Furman. Yeah. Remember that?
You were right. You were right. And some people are saying that Jacobs has got a chance. And I think Jacobs certainly can. If Jacobs can go, past the second part of the fight, he may frustrate Triple G. He may put doubt in Triple G's head, because Triple G is very much used to take out his opponents. His knockout ratio is very high. So, for a boxer that is used to dispatch of his opponents very quickly, once you get to the second hand of the fight, your doubt can creep into your mind. And if you're not mentally strong, you can doubt your very own ability, and the opponent can recognize that, the corner can recognize that, and can take advantage of that. So it'll be very good to see whether Jacobs can actually take Triple G to the second hand of the fight, because it's been quite some time since Triple G won a decision. So I'm very much looking forward for Jacobs, and in true British spirit, I'll be going for the underdog, which is Jacobs. It would be good to see whether Jacobs can shock the world, and we can have another shocking result. So go on, Jacobs.
Now, Linus, Triple G is a heavy favourite. Why do you think that is? And who are you tipping overall?
Well, Triple G is a heavy favourite because, everyone has been avoiding him like a black plague.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? The guy has, you know what? Boxing wise, you watch him, you think, he can bang, that's about it. A lot of simple minds, no disrespect to them, will think, he can bang, he's a banger. He is a technical ass boxer. The way he throws his shots, you watch his shots, the way he throws his shots is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. The way he throws his shots.
And the way he cuts the ring down as well.
Oh yeah, his footwork is incredible. And you have to remember, the guy has a lot of fight pedigree. He's had a lot of fights. The guy, and let's give Daniel Jacobs. I think he's got a very good chance. In this fight, but personally, I wouldn't pick Daniel Jacobs to beat. If there was anyone that I'd say would beat Triple G, it would be Daniel Jacobs. But I don't think he will this fight, if that makes sense.
But Linus, answer me this: you're a fighter.
Yeah.
Why is Triple G not moving up in weight? He's proved himself at middleweight. Why is he not moving up?
Yeah, but why does he have to? I always think, why does he have to? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, he's proved himself at middleweight, and but why does he have to? Why is he going to put himself in unnecessary danger when? Do you know what I mean? Why does he have to? But
that's what the greats do. They move up.
Yeah, but no, that's just. Look, you have to remember the greats. Yeah, the greats, a lot of the greats have moved up, and how many of them have like done it successfully and come out very sound? You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong, it's daring to be great and all this, but when you've solidified yourself in your division and you're top, what's the point of putting yourself in unnecessary danger? You know what I mean? I don't want to sound like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it is a question of
But your argument is, what a lot of people are saying is he hasn't beaten anyone. That's what they're saying. There's no one for him to really fight at middleweight.
What?
So they're saying he has to move up.
David Lemieux, he hasn't beaten David Lemieux. He hasn't tried to fight Canelo. He's done him like the play.
No, the Canelo one.
He hasn't beaten Kell Brook. He hasn't beaten. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, he don't, like, he hasn't beaten Willie Monroe Jr.
So Money Penny CC, they say if you can beat cancer like Daniel Jacobs, then anything is possible. Is a win possible for Daniel Jacobs?
Success is where preparation and opportunity meet. Can Jacobs beat Golovkin? It's definitely a possibility. You know, at the end of the day, Triple G is putting all 4 belts on the line, and Jacobs could be the one, indeed, to upset the apple cart for Golovkin. They're both humble men, and somebody has to lose. But if you look at Triple G, and you look at his historic accomplishments, he has never looked like he's lost a fight. But Jacobs, however, will make him respect his power. Triple G will break him down with jabs and stalk him, tire him out. And there's no way you're going to see a much better Triple G than you saw him fight against Brook. You know, I think
Triple G that fought the new, I reckon.
There you go. Now, Triple G will not let him get the shots of Jacobs in the way he did with Bellew, who is, as we know, another hard-hitting, you know, middleweight. But there is, I'm not sure if you guys have seen, but there's a weight difference with Triple G. He's coming quite light, which I think could be a potential problem for Triple G's performance. I don't really know what strategy is there. But, I mean, Jacobs has had 10 wins since he's come back from cancer. Like, he's a walking miracle man. And everything's been on the up since beating cancer. And, you know, I think he's definitely somebody that people need to start paying attention to, need to show him respect. And I quite like, you know, if you haven't seen it yet, go and watch the HBO video, which talks about both fighters, both backstories. I mean, I'm definitely on the fence of this. I think there's a high probability that Jacobs could take Triple G on. He might be the first to rock his boat. I'm gonna put it down to points. I'm gonna call it on points, and I'm just gonna stay on the fence though. I'm not so sure, but for me, it's his bigger rival yet. It's just a shame because Dimitri Pirog would have been fantastic, but we'll never know now because he had to retire because of injury. So in terms
beat
of
Jacobs, yeah,
absolutely. So in fact, going back to what Linus just said, is this the biggest threat that we'll ever see? Probably not. We'll never know because I think that's one fight that everybody would have liked to have seen. So this is the next best thing. I'm really looking forward to Saturday night. I think that again another fantastic fight that's really putting boxing on the map again.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be lit, CC. It's going to be lit.
Absolutely.
Pascal, there's a part of me that wants Triple G to win, and I think you know the reason why. Because I'm dying to see that fight with Canelo in September.
Of course.
Never gonna happen.
And perhaps even Chris Eubank Jr.
Possibly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I think for me as well is the old age kind of attitude that we have towards champions. You know, some champions we want to see how good they really are, and we want them to be tested against the best. And others, you know, we want to preserve their undefeated and unblemished record. You know, Floyd Mayweather has made it very lucrative to keep your 0. And I think for Triple G, you know, certainly his stock is increasing every single time that no one's able to beat him, you know, and he's also potentially looking at, maybe achieving a similar kind of record that Floyd Mayweather has achieved, 49 victories and no 0 defeats. Triple G is still very much some way, in that race, but if he decides to set that world champion record for himself, then it becomes very interesting. But how does he do this? Does he stay at the middleweight division, or does he start looking elsewhere? You know, I mean, we've got the likes of, Badou Jack, who's looking at the light heavyweight division. You know, they're tipping him to fight Fonfara. why not? You know, I mean, certainly I think that, you know, all the great champions around the world, you know, around the history of boxing, you know, certainly those who went heavyweight certainly went up in weight. You know, they went and fought other fighters to prove themselves, to prove whether they were really the real deal. So certainly I'd like
Amir
to see
Khan went up in weight.
Amir Khan went up in weight, of course. He was
went up in weight.
But I certainly would like to see Triple G go up in weight at the very least, you know, just to test himself, to see whether he can mix it with the best of the other division. He certainly has the talent and the power, you know, but how much power does he truly have? We'll have to wait and see if that power can be tested at a different weight division.
Well, you mentioned Mayweather, and there's talk of McGregor being reserved for June 10th in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena. Now, Linus, there are some boxing pundits out there that do not want to see this go ahead. What's your view on this possible matchup?
I'm the same, to be honest, with the, you know what I mean, it's just going to ruin, it's just going to, you know what, it's
turn into wrestling, yeah?
Yeah, it's going to be like, you know what I mean, it's just going to be a showcase. It's going to be, it's not going to be boxing at all. It's not going to, do you know what I mean? It won't do anything to help boxing. It'll just open up something else. It'll open up something different. This is going to start coming out a bit more. When like all this just media, everyone saying Conor McGregor this, there was even talk of Roy Jones fighting Anderson Silva on the undercard, and I was just like, are you kidding me? What is going on? Like, are you kidding me? What is actually going on? Personally, it's going to be a lot of money. It's going to generate a lot of money in you know what I mean, in the sport and this and that. Yeah, it's all good. Floyd Mayweather has no interest in actually beating Conor McGregor. He doesn't care about, you know, Conor McGregor himself. He cares about how much money he can make out of Conor McGregor, and that's obviously why this is going on. That's why even this is getting a sniff. You know what I mean? Conor McGregor, all it is about the money, and I personally don't think it's really very good for the sport. It's going to be good for the sport of like MMA, because that's going to really, you know, it's going to stamp it on the map a lot more than it already is now. I mean, MMA is really on the map, but it's going to help MMA more than it is going to help boxing. I don't really think it should go ahead. I'm not even sure if it will go ahead. If the money is about, then it will. But you know, it's just another one of those. But you can't really talk about boxing without bringing up the buzzword Mayweather.
He's retired and he's still having people talk about him, which is what he wants.
He's still the biggest name in boxing. He's still the biggest name in boxing. I mean, he could be retired for the next 10 years, still be the biggest name in boxing. One of my idols.
Moneypenny Cece, do you think a possible contest between these two affects the credibility of boxing, like Linus?
Yeah, you know what, I do agree with Linus here. The thing is, this is Generation Mayweather. What does this mean? It's not just boxing. It's a business transaction, right? But is it going to get as far as a fight? I think there's a chance that. So if we get into the details of the fight and we think about what's going to happen, is it going to go the whole 12 rounds? Will there be a knockout? Will McGregor survive? You know, I think there are so many questions that people actually want to know the answers to. So I think potentially it's going to happen. I think it does more credibility for MMA than it does for boxing. But do I want to see it go ahead? Yeah, actually, I think I do. I want to see it, but only because
I would stream that.
Yeah, I would stream it. You know, and even if I remember correctly, even Eddie Hearn said, would he go out there and see it? No, he wouldn't. Would he see it for the entertainment factor? Yeah, he said he might download it and watch it himself. I just don't see how the two correlate. For me, in MMA, there's no discipline, okay? And in boxing, there is. We know that. We know that boxing isn't just about, you know, hitting somebody. There's a real predatorial instinct that comes into it. Linus, correct me if I'm wrong. You know, it's one-on-one. It's a war out there between you. But with MMA, there's no discipline. And that's why I've never really been a big fan of the sport. But, you know, I think what with McGregor's frontline attitudes and Mayweather, who likes to fight on the defense and wear his opponents down, it will be interesting. It's going to be an interesting entertainment, a bit of an interesting showdown. And, you know, Mayweather is another tenacious boxer. Who's going to win it? Mayweather is. It's a fight. It's boxing. It's not MMA. Go figure.
Could you just imagine the press conference between the two, Mayweather and McGregor? Now that would be entertaining.
It will be entertaining. It will be. But you know, I think fight fans, do they want to see entertainment knowing what goes on behind the scenes now, whether it's just the hype? Are people going to welcome the hype or are they not? I think real boxing fans probably, you know, like ourselves, we probably see behind that, you know, that screen, but from an entertainment perspective, people are going to love it and they're going to relish it and it's going to feed the beast and God knows what there's going to be next. You know, it might be, I mean, I don't even want to imagine what's going to happen next after this goes on, but it's going to be explosive.
The money team, UFC. Right.
Frankie B, you know, Frankie B, I want to make a quick point on that fight, you know. For a very long time, you know, I've watched Floyd for a very, very long time, for probably the last 10 years, maybe more. And Floyd Mayweather was always talking about getting a fair share and always been considered a credible athlete. And I think for me, if that fight goes ahead, he could have a bit of an impact on the legacy of his career because, you know, we've always, you know, admired Floyd to taking on very good fights. You know, personally, the night I fell in love with Floyd Mayweather's boxing is when he dismantled Arturo Gatti. And I've also watched the Diego Corrales fight as well. And those two fights for me are some of the best performances that I've ever seen Floyd, you know, and masterpiece performance, virtuoso performance in the ring. And for him to finish his career on a 50-0 against a UFC fighter that's not had a professional fight, that is not a recognized champion. You know, Floyd prides himself on beating the most world champion in the history of the sport. It's a bit concerning that Floyd Mayweather is willing to just completely, you know, almost tarnish his legacy for the sake of a few $1 million. I mean, you know, he's earned good money throughout his career. He boasts of earning £800 million or dollars, across his career as a result of fighting. So I really even want to be part of the discussion because of McGregor. So there's a bit of hypocrisy I find in the way that Floyd's approaching the fight, you know, and it's to some extent I'm a bit confused by it because, you know, one second Floyd doesn't want to be associated with Conor McGregor because he claims that he's a better athlete, he's a better boxer, but on the other hand he also wants to be fighting Conor McGregor, you know, simply for the instant value of the $1 million fight that it could be. It's certainly, yeah. I mean, money's certainly the motivation, money but talks, yeah. You know, after he said it and done, people forget about the money. People forget about the money. People remember the achievement.
Okay, now it's interview time. This week we featured a cream of boxing talent in Ghana to celebrate the country's 60th independence. I was at the Bookham Boxing Arena in Accra last weekend to see Frederick Lawson, Duke Micah and Richard Commey all compete for 3 vacant WBC international titles. First up was Frederick Lawson versus Akima Mullins for the WBC International Silver Welterweight title. Let's hear the result from the announcer. Here's the winner, Frederick Lawson. Right, it's Frankie B, Pep Talk UK, and I'm joined with Frederick Lawson, the new WBC International Silver Welterweight Champion. How was it in there?
Oh, I know it wasn't easy, but it is what it is, you know, because I've been away for a while, and I'm glad I'm fighting my motherland today, you know. Being out of the States, acclimatization and everything of the weather, training up there, fighting there, you know, it's not easy. You know how it is because you've been from Britain. You know how the weather changes, you know. So coming down for a short notice, getting ready for a fight, I know it wasn't easy, but I know I can do it before. My manager, my technical team believe in me, and I know what I can do. Actually, my last fight happened narrowly, and the narrow loss wasn't that good for me. It took everything out of my mind. It drained my power. It really drained me away. But I'm like, hey, never lost focus. I'm back, and I'm back for good.
You're back. So what do you think, obviously it went to decision, what do you think was the key that convinced the judges that you were the majority winner?
Because I can see in the ring myself that I'm working everything, I'm doing everything to win that fight, and I know how to count my points when I'm fighting. So I think with my strategy and what I did, I know I carried the night. The fight was mine. Because he didn't do anything that impressed me or made me see what he's doing, like he's a boxer. I didn't see him as a boxer. I know he's a good boxer, he's a good puncher, he's strong, but not to my level. I'm different.
Okay, brilliant. What do you have lined up now?
Seriously, for now, I'm heading back to the States and resume my training a couple of weeks to come. And I think in a month or two, we're going to schedule something in Britain or maybe in the States. We're still marching forward. You know, we got a long way to go because we're still young, working hard. We're just blowing it up there. So let's make it to the world. Up we go.
Thank you. And the new. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Next up, we hear from a victorious Duke Micah, who claimed the WBC International Gold Bantamweight title by a TKO win over Jonathan Aquila. Well, yo, this is Pep Talk UK's Frankie B, and I'm joined by the new WBC International Gold Bantamweight champion, Duke Micah. How you doing, guys?
I'm doing good by the grace of God, you know.
You had a tough opponent in there. How difficult was it?
You know, it wasn't easy, you know, but you don't have to underrate any fighter. He's a great fighter, so I have to protect myself at all times so that I can fight him very well, you know, so that I can, you know, take the victory.
I saw you doing a bit of the Azonto in the end, a bit of your celebration, a bit of Azonto.
Yo, you know, this is where Azonto come from, so I have to celebrate with Azonto, you know.
Representing, okay. So what have you got lined up after this? What are you looking forward to next?
Now I'm expecting a world title, you know, and any title, you know, in the world, because this is what we do, and this is our job. We are hungry to face the best fighter. You fight the best, you be the best. As you can see, I don't even know the guy I'm fighting, but it's the best fighter. And when you fight the best, you be the best. And I agree that I'm gonna fight him. So,
congratulations, Duke, on your win. Congratulations, mate.
Thank you.
Headlining the bill was Richard Commey, who went 12 rounds with Heidi Slimani for the vacant WBC International Lightweight title. Let's hear the verdict from the announcer.
And now, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of hard top punching in the ring, we settle it on the scorecards. Judge Atar Eddie Papo scores the bout 116 to 112. Judge Latif Mouin scores the bout 117 to 113. And Judge Sylvain Apote scores the bout 116 to 112 for the new WBC International Lightweight Champion, Richard the Crystal.
Now let's hear from a very happy, victorious Richard Commey. Pep Talk UK, Frankie B, and I'm joined by a victorious Richard Commey. Victorious in the night after 12 hard rounds. You got the decision. How was the fight?
I mean, it was a great fight. It was a tough fight in my own backyard. This guy comes to really work out. You know, it's not an easy opponent. It's a good opponent, and you know, I'm glad I tasted him and I matched him out, and at the end of the day, God gave me victory, so I thank God.
What do you think was the key strategy in the fight to overcome your opponent after 12 rounds?
Yeah, I know I can easily box him, so I try to just hit him, give him a shot, let him work. When he gets tired, we'll get at him with unexpected punches, and I know that really won me the fight.
Okay. So how important was it coming back after 2 consecutive marginal defeats?
I mean, it is very important. Moreover, Ghana is celebrating its 60th anniversary, and this is part of history. As far as I've got the opportunity to bounce back from back-to-back defeat, so it's everything I ever dreamed of. So I'm glad I did this, and I thank God, honestly.
Brilliant. So what have you got lined up next for Richard Commey?
Oh, at the moment, I just want to start. I know the future looks bright. But then also, just have to go back and have a rest, and then when I come back, sort out this injury, and I will see what the future holds for me. But definitely, I know the future looks bright.
Congratulations, Richie. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
God bless.
Finally, let's hear from a man that deserves all the credit for preparing both Duke Micah and Richard Commey toward victory, experienced trainer Carl Lokko. Pep Talk UK, Frankie B, and I'm joined by a happy trainer tonight, a very, very happy trainer, Mr. Carl Lokko. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. And you?
Brilliant. I'm brilliant. Very, very, very happy experience today with your fighters getting the win today.
Yeah, I mean, for the first place, every coach or every trainer in my shoes will be very happy, because for the first place, whatever you are thinking of the wins. After the win, then you go back to the drawing board and you start working again. So I'm happy because they all won.
So in terms of Duke Micah, did you see anything that needs improvement to propel his talent to the world stage?
I mean, yes, for the first place, everybody respect the boxers coming from Mexico because they are not a pushovers. And it's like Duke have to be extra careful because he's growing in the game. He's growing to be among the top ones. So he started with a stiff competition because the opponent was giving him a stiff opposition. So he gave him something to start thinking of. And we have to strategize and take time and make sure he gets his win in a nice way. So I told him that just relax, just focus, set yourself, and just keep punishing him. And if you want to take it, he should take it. If he cannot take it again, he will stop. And at least up to the 8th round, he said it's not coming again. And I believe you are there. You saw that it was a nice TKO. It was not someone who just stopped because he just came in. I mean for the Benjamins.
What about the Benjamins?
Yeah,
P. Diddy. What about Richard Commey? Impressive as ever. He's come back after 2 marginal defeats. What does the future hold for Richard Commey now?
I mean, the name of Richard have gone high there already. Although you have got back-to-back loss, and that back-to-back loss have even pushed him to the top. So we don't have to drop back. We have to keep the spirit high. So what we have to do, we don't have to go in there and bring an easy opponent for Richard. He still have to maintain himself, so we have to give him this kind of opponent. And you can see what Adi Salim can do. He was trying to push himself to the world, to the system, because he also wants to be a world champion. He's not just coming here just to come and think of the Benjamins. As I said again, yes, you are there. You saw what he was trying to do. He was giving Richard a hair of the fight. But Richard have to prove to him that, yes, I am the champion and I want to be part of the top. So he showed up to everyone. And at least by the close of the day, Richard was a victorious by unanimous decision.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Carl Lokko. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for you coming far away down here to Ghana just to follow us, we thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you. Pep Talk UK. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shout out to Mickey Moo for putting it all together. Sick, Mickey. Sick. Madasi. Now, Pascal, finally Ghana have a crop of boxers who look like they can compete on the world stage.
Of course, Frankie B, I always admired Ghana as a country in terms of their production of fighters. They've always been very good at developing very good talent. Azuma Nelson notably, some arguably believe he's the best African boxer of all time, and I'm not surprised that a lot of young Ghanaian fighters are following his footsteps. I know that Duke Micah is a very good fighter, a very good bantamweight prospect. Very much aware of Richard Commey, who lost the ISBF title recently to Robert Easton Jr. But obviously he's back to winning ways, And there's also Mr. Lawson, and also a couple of heavyweight fighters, Bukombaku, Ike Forte. These are very good guys, come from a very good stable of fighters in the Bukom gym. So I'm expecting much more talent, in the near future as well.
Pick up the Ghanaian fighters. Now it's football time. The major news this week was Leicester reaching a quarter-final of the Champions League. Remarkable. Pascal, how sick are you as an Arsenal fan at the moment?
Wait.
Frankie B, it's you have to laugh. You have to laugh at those things, Frankie. You cannot take life seriously. You have to laugh and you have to enjoy, the very simple things like the birds chirping every morning and things like that to make you feel better. Because otherwise you become depressed and then you just want to. And your life. I mean, look, Frankie B. We have Leicester, who've never been in the Champions League before, who are achieving a lot further, less money than Arsenal have been. And with a manager that they've sat in between, come on, you cannot hide this situation. And I tell you, Frankie, if Leicester win the Champions League, it is even a bigger disgrace to a lot of Premier League clubs. I mean, just before the podcast started, I'm not sure if you realize, but Monaco were beating Manchester City.
Yeah, well, Monaco
so,
won.
Vive Monaco. French football is certainly, they certainly deserve to win after the robbery of Paris Saint-Germain, beat Barcelona, but I will not talk about that to date. But look, I think that Leicester should be very proud of themselves. They've done extremely well. They've achieved extremely well as far as, the football is concerned. And, and I'm very proud of them because they are showing very much that team spirit, that unity that is needed. And, also a lot of teams do not know how to play Leicester in the Champions League because they're a very new team, and there's not much tactics, there's not much footage of how they play. But also I think that a lot of teams have figured how to play against Arsene Wenger. And Arsene Wenger is no longer the myth, is no longer the mystery in his football. It's very obvious and people know exactly how to play against Arsene Wenger. And as a result of that, Arsenal becomes this team that is very easy to play against. But on the flip side of things, Arsenal
I mean, Pascal, I was in Ghana.
Were you? Okay, yes, of course you were, yes.
And I went to a local sports bar and I saw the 5-1 demolition at the Emirates, mate. I was absolutely gobsmacked, mate. Absolutely. 10-2 an aggregate. I mean, that's ridiculous, mate. 10-2.
No other club in history has
shocking.
Never been beaten like that.
It's bad, man. It's very, very bad.
It's terrible.
I might have to make my own banner and take it to the Emirates.
What's the banner going to say?
Wenger out.
Listen, you say that, you know what? You need to start putting some respect on his name, to be honest with you. Yeah? Who else are you going to put in there? Who else are you going to get in? Why don't you tell me right now?
We got Allegri, Juventus. Diego Simeone.
Simeone will be a good.
If you show them money,
Simeone will be the absolute perfect replacement. Actually, that's my opinion. That's just all I was going to say.
But you got to remember, Linus, like Wenger makes almost 10 million a season. Like for
exactly.
that amount of money they pay, we can get a lot of managers for that.
He ain't going anywhere. He ain't going anywhere. Wenger ain't going anywhere. Let's just face it. You're going to have this for the next how many more years he's got his contract. I'm just happy I'm not an Arsenal fan. As simple as that.
Oh, mate.
I agree. I agree with Linus.
I can sleep good at night.
Arsene Wenger will stay on. I think that he will carry on staying. I don't think that he will go very soon.
He might even do a live contract signing on Facebook Live just to pee us all off, man.
Oh, mate, that would be great. I'd love that.
But Linus, back to Leicester. All of a sudden Leicester are performing now. Like they've sacked the manager and they're performing. I mean, what is the situation with that? You think there was some internal politics?
There could have been a lot of internal politics with Leicester and their manager, and we a lot of us don't know. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone would have been on a high from them winning the Premier League, and you just don't know. There might have been some things going on. A lot of players might have wanted some contract renewals, and you didn't give it to it. You know what I mean? We don't know everything that happened, but it just seems a bit like that whole Chelsea thing when they had Mourinho and everyone wanted Mourinho out, and as soon as he left, everyone picked it up, and then they came back up. You don't know. We don't know. But it's interesting. I'm just happy that they are going. You know what I mean? They're doing this well. I'm just really happy that Leicester aren't that club that just did it once and then they've just flopped. You know what I mean? I really want them to at least grab something before. Before they turn into that average club,
Well, congratulations, Leicester. That is a major, major achievement, what they achieved. Reaching the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Massive. Now, Pascal, interesting news. your French compatriots Monaco have eliminated Man City from the Champions League.
Superb. And let me ask you a question, Frankie. Was one of the scorers a certain Mbappe? Oui. Mbappe, super player. I mean, listen, anybody listening in England, Mourinho, Arsene Wenger, Pochettino, Jurgen Klopp, spend all your money on that player. 50 million, 60 million. The kid is the truth, and he's going to be an absolute dynamite. You know, he's a very good player. For a very long time, he's been causing a lot of problems in the French defense. You know, and you know, we've been monitoring him for a very long time. He has Henry-esque, you know, qualities.
He even looks like him.
Two light-skinned boys, you know, very much so. Yes, good player, and listen, he's destined for greatness. And to score against the Manchester City side at such a, you know, young age, you know, he's still very much, you know, in his early 20s. It's quite remarkable, you know. It's quite remarkable, you know. And you know, and let's not forget that you know, there's still Radamel Falcao, you know, who's is playing at Monaco, still playing very well. And Mbappe is still very much the player that is pushing him and has cemented himself as part of the senior team in this Monegasque side. So that, you know, it's certainly a player to look out for the future. And I would love to see that player at Arsenal, of course. You know, he will be certainly a very good fit.
Arsenal won't buy him, mate. What will happen is he'll go to Man City, and then we'll play Man City, and then Wenger will say we could have signed him.
The old story. The old story. But Wenger has admitted that he's been looking at him.
Wenger, you know, man, he should stop gassing up the Arsenal fans, man. He should stop doing that, man. It builds resentment.
He certainly does. He certainly does. You know, but. Look, you know, it's certainly something that we now, I mean, as Arsenal fans, and certainly as you know, people that followed football, I think there's certainly a change that is needed. You know, I think people are sick and tired of the same old Arsenal. You know, from our competitors to the fans themselves. You know, I feel that, you know, that the some of the fans are you know, disrespecting a little bit of Wenger. I mean, you know. Demonstrating against Wenger is not bad. Is not very good enough. I think they're demonstrating against the club is certainly something that should be done, because, you know, let's not forget Wenger is an employee of the club like everyone else.
You know, the funny thing is, you know, the funny thing, Pascal, if you disrespect him like that, he'll just sign the contract just to pee you off.
Yeah, he's certainly very stubborn in that way, you know, and I just don't think it's the right approach. But at the same time, you know, I do believe that, you know, managers should be given pressure. I mean, you know, look, sometimes we have deadlines to meet at work, we have deadlines to do, and it's important that, you know, at any given opportunity, that sometimes we are given, you know, a bit of pressure and you know, to perform. And it seems to a lot of us, you know, who've been following Arsenal, even as neutral fans, that Arsenal are always losing at the very same point in the season every year, consistently. So therefore, there is something mentally that not quite work right for Arsenal at a particular time of the season. And it cannot be the players, because no matter how many players Wenger buys, they seem to be performing, you know, doing the same thing. So he has to come from the manager. He has to come from the manager. It has to come from the tactics. He has to come from something that he's doing that needs to be addressed. You know, and there's nothing wrong against that. You know. I mean, look, you know, Frankie, me and Delphine have got a perfectly very good relationship, but sometimes I have to tell her I have to put her in her place, because it's not always good. You know, and you know, in football it's the same thing. You know, so I think Wenger should be confronted and be asked every season, why are we failing to make, you know, the quarterfinals of the Champions League every year? You are given a budget to buy players. Why the players that you're buying are not performing? And what are your tactics? And certainly Wenger should be looked at to provide a bit more in-depth reasons as to why Arsenal failed to go to the, you know, to the next level, because he's frustrated.
And this time he spent almost 90 million in the summer transfer window, so the excuses are even far between now.
You don't blame the referee, you know. You cannot blame the referee. It's certainly something that Wenger has to address as a manager. And if he has failings, he has to be honest and say to himself, look, maybe my backroom staff needs to change, or perhaps I need a second manager, or second man in charge. Yeah, because we know that in terms of defensively, Wenger doesn't defend very well. Attacking football is not too bad, but defensively, Wenger has always had very difficulties at purchasing the right level of defenders. I mean, was it? I Redknapp said that Wenger should buy John Terry. Could you believe that? Wenger should buy John Terry because John Terry could certainly help. Organize the defense at the back better than some
and he'll help the dressing room.
Certainly he will.
You just got to make sure you keep your wife or girlfriend away from him,
Of course, yeah, that's the biggest problem.
Now, Linus, we were slightly digressing away from the question. Guardiola, all right, it's not really going too great for him. I mean, do you think overall Guardiola's been kind of overrated? Because his team have gone out in the Champions League, and in the league, they're a lot of points off Chelsea.
Do you remember when I was last on a podcast and, certain people, I won't say names, were bigging him up and saying this about Guardiola and he's going to do this. And I said to you that this man is not a fraud. I just think he rode his luck throughout these clubs that he's gone to, because he's gone to these clubs when they are at their best, when they have the peak players, when they have the money. You know what? The money doesn't even matter, because he's brought in a lot of players to Man City that haven't been able, they've been effective, but they haven't, they haven't seasoned in like all the other clubs he's been at. And now, I personally think it's starting to come to light that he is just another manager, but he's going into a club that needs a lot of work, and he needs a lot of time to do it. He can't just go in there and win everything like he always does. And I'm happy that this is happening to him.
Yeah, because in some ways, when he left Barcelona, he went straight to Bayern, a team that was top of their league.
Top of their league, killing it.
Yeah, and he thought, I'll go to Man City as well. They got the money. Let me just go over there. It's easy work.
But it was hard, because you can't go. He went to Man City. Their star boy Aguero, had a few problems. He's been injured a couple of times now, and they've been they're doing all right. They've been doing all right, but do you know what I mean? It's not, especially the Premier League. It's not an easy league. It's not a free team league. It's a good 7 or 8. Do you know what I mean? It's not a free team league. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like you got teams like Tottenham that will hide around the background a little bit and then have to smash everyone. And then you got a team like Liverpool that will lose to Leicester. No disrespect to these teams. They'll lose to Leicester. They'll lose to Stoke. They'll lose to all the little teams, and then beat Arsenal, City, Chelsea, United. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, how's that even work out? But you know what I mean? There's so many teams in this league. This league is not a joke. You know what I mean? And you can't, Guardiola, you can't just walk in it and, you know what I mean, try and be. I'm just happy that he hasn't, that he's kind of found out a little bit.
Alright, guys, we're quickly going to talk about the FA Cup.
Ages ago, I said he just walks the club.
Yeah, I mean, he goes to clubs in good positions, which is, it kind of disguises managerial ability. So
big time. Quickly, he can just do a Wenger and stay there.
Do you know what? Would he do better than Wenger if he was at Arsenal? Guardiola? That's a good question.
Yeah, but he would do for the first season, because everyone's just going to have that breath of fresh air. Wenger leaving, then they're going to realise he's just stuck with shit again.
Oh dear. Anyway, guys, that's our time. I'd like to thank Moneypenny Cece. I'd like to thank Linus. I'd like to thank Pascal. Join us again next week for another Pep Talk UK podcast. Thank you. Boom.
Pep Talk UK.